I'd like to call to order the February Goodyear Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Will you please all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May the record show that everyone is present except for Mr. Bay. The Commission did just receive their minutes, but if you would like to move for approval, I'll accept it at this time.
Madam Chair, a motion to approve the minutes of February 7, 2007 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second it.
I got a wave from.
I'll second it. I had a chance to read it.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We have a nice crowd out there this evening. If you would like to speak to something on our agenda and have not filled out a public comment card, I would ask that you please do so. Or, of course, there is still the opportunity to make any comments as we go through the evening. Would anyone like to speak to something at this point? Okay. Would my commission like to disclose any ex parte communication? Here is the time. Moving on to our consent agenda, we have 2 items listed. They both have been slated for continuation. Case 06-200-00016, New West Business Park. The applicant is Don Bennett and Landkin Development. Staff recommends continuation until March 21st. And also case 06-300-00004, Sadea Regional Water Campus use permit. That has been rescheduled, or staff's recommending that it be continued until March 7th. We have a motion on our consent agenda. If anyone of the commission or from the public would like to speak to either one of these cases or ask that they be removed from the consent agenda, now would be the time.
I'd like to ask the staff a question. On the water campus question, is there any reason that this could not be moved back to the March 21st meeting when we will have a full commission? Because I know there's 2 commissioners that are going to be absent on the 7th.
And one of them would really like to be here.
Yeah. I didn't say that. The chairperson did.
Yes, the chairperson.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gelser, in communications with the applicant, they are very anxious to proceed with this since the commission continued it at the prior meeting. They initially wanted to be on this agenda. They were not quite ready, but they are ready to go on the next agenda. I don't think the applicant would prefer that it be heard on March 7th, not 21st. That would be too much of a delay in their schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commission action.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as stated by the chairperson.
I'll second. We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on to our new business. Section A, the presentation by Westcore Development Corporation for the concept of Estrella Falls Regional Shopping Center.
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, very briefly, this is an information item. This is an opportunity to provide Westcore and their development team to introduce to the Commission and to the public proposed design and architectural concepts for the Estrella Falls Regional Shopping Center. Very briefly, this is for information only, and also receive your comments, questions, and answers. This is not for approval or action at this time. Westcor and the city staff are doing a similar thing with the city council next week. Have done some briefings with city council members over the last few weeks. The process is beginning between city staff and Westcor for the design of the original shopping center. This will lead to the submission of a site plan in March 14th to city staff, technical review by staff, and then under the zoning, PAD zoning for the property, the site plan for the regional shopping center will be then brought forth before the Planning Commission and then the City Council for approval. But again, tonight is for information only and for questions from the Commission. This time I'm going to turn it over to Garrett Newland, Westcor's development team, and he'll introduce his other members of his team, and then we'll go into a PowerPoint presentation of design concepts, followed by questions and answers.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, Commission members, thank you for the opportunity to come in tonight and present our initial design concepts for a project that we're all very excited about. If nothing more, I think the team that we have assembled here tonight, which is pretty much everyone from row all the way back to the wall just about, our design team, members from our Westcor team as well are here tonight to present this project to the Commission and to the community. And again, we're very excited. The community's waited a long time for this project, and it's time to roll it out. We think this will be the state-of-the-art lifestyle regional center development, not just in the Southwest Valley, but in Metro Phoenix, the state of Arizona, and in the southwestern U.S. And again, we're excited to be bringing it to the Commission tonight. We're going to walk through a PowerPoint, and I wanted to introduce some of our team members that will be speaking tonight. Our consultants on this project are Omniplan Architects. John Tran will be speaking on some of the building design. We have a couple of members from Gree Pickett, Russ Gree and Jillian Hagan are here, that are landscape designers. And then Ron Lorch from our own Westcor development team will be talking through some of the overall site plan concepts. I'm just up here to kind of introduce the team and get things kicked off. At this point, I'll go ahead and click into our PowerPoint presentation. And I can't read that, but
This is an error.
that's never a good sign. Well, we may have to go to words instead. While he's working on it, I'll move on to a couple more comments that I was going to make. I want to just give Commission and the public a little bit of background on the project. We originally came into Goodyear and got our general plan and zoning approved in 98 and 99. In 2002 and 2003, we rolled out our Phoenix 2020 strategy, which identified and really verified, validated this Goodyear location as the site for the Southwest Valley for the next super regional destination. 2005, 2006, we worked very hard with the staff here and the council and created an infrastructure solution, and I've got a great graphic to show that'll point that out, for all of the infrastructure needed around this 300-acre site known as Estrella Falls. And now, 2007 through 2009 will be our development process. And we'll be obviously working very closely with staff again. Looks like we've got the PowerPoint up again. Let's try it. Here we go. This is the Estrella Falls development that's up on the screen right now. It's bounded by Bullard, I-10, McDowell Road, Pebble Creek, Virginian, and Canto. New street to be created will be 151st Avenue and Monte Vista Drive. Again, it's about 300 acres. This is our power center, the market at Estrella Falls, which the Commission has seen previously in Council. It will be breaking ground later this year and scheduled for a first phase opening in 2008. The regional center, which we're here to talk to you about tonight, is this kind of ring road and oval-shaped property right here. It's about 100 acres, and it's just about 1 million square feet that you can see developed under building right now. It does not incorporate yet these peripheral parcels When you think about any of the regional malls that we've built, you'll have peripheral parcels with fine dining and banks and other things. That's still to come forward as well. That'll be coming forward under a future application as we get the mall actually under construction. Again, it's a little bit difficult when you look at a map to understand how big it is, but it's 100 acres. Ron and John will get into a little bit more detail about the specifics. 2 major department stores and a cinema. And again, 1 million square feet total, and over 100 tenants that would all be coming online and opening as part of this project. One of the things I wanted to mention too about working with Goodyear, we've met a few times with staff and worked with staff on this project. And one of the things that we should point out, it's a little bit different than a power center, and even a larger power center. The scale of the project at over 100 acres, just with the utilities, the drainage that we have to provide, is very significant. The mix of uses is very significant, and our design timing, we have to get under construction almost 2 years ahead of opening, when a lot of our tenants will be coming in the last 6 months to do their facade to their building and then all their tenant improvements inside. So it makes it a little bit unique, and it can create some challenges for a city review staff when you think about a 60-day period and 100 tenant improvement packages all come in for processing and approval. And the relationship with the staff is going very well. We're excited about it. The other thing to point out is the improvement district. We worked with city staff, and you can see the construction starting out there on Pebble Creek and McDowell on the improvement district. All the improvements will be going in. There's a major regional wash, Bullard Wash, that will be improved to, obviously it'll be a drainage way, but it will be a public amenity for the city and for residents of the community as well. We're proud to be a part of that design, and incorporate it into our project. We've also included a number of other amenities that we've worked with city staff on. We'll be creating a community room for the benefit of the community. There'll be a police substation that also locates at the mall, a public information kiosk that the city will be able to access and utilize at the mall site itself. All right, that's enough of a background. I'm going to hand it off to Ron Lorch from our design team to walk you through some of the specifics of the design of the site. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett. Again, my name is Ron Lorch. What I do for Westcor is I act as a liaison between I work in the Westcor team on the design and planning, and I'm a liaison between the architect and Westcor. What we'd like to do tonight is basically walk you through what we have shown staff so far. We want to focus on the site plan, the circulation, site amenities, open space, landscaping, and then finally where we are with our architecture. And then open it up for questions that the public may have or the commission may have. What we wanted to do was, first of all, create a very special place for Goodyear. And how we wanted to do that is we wanted to we need a concept. We need something that we can wrap our arms around and take through the site plan and carry it into the architecture. What we found, we took our cues from the environment, and we basically found it in our own backyard, and that's a cienega. And what it is, if you look at the middle picture, it's a lush landscape ribbon that meanders through the desert floor. As it matures, it will cut deeper into the desert and create mesas on the side. And here's a graphic of what, too far. Here's a graphic of what we anticipate, what we call our concept, our Arizona cienega. You can see the cienega runs right down the middle, and we've got mesas starting to form on each side. Site plan, this is a little closer view of what we've got. What we are calling our cienega is right down the middle of the site. It's a meandering ribbon of lush landscaping, pedestrian walks, shade structures, outdoor patio areas, hardscape changes, and smaller neighborhoods, and I'll get into that. It is a street. It is an open-air mall. Right through the middle is a 30-foot road. On each side of that road is 20 feet of head-in parking, which will serve the shops, and the shops will face that cienega. Next to the parking is 15 feet on each side of pedestrian walkway, and then you have the shops. So that's what we're anticipating. That's our Cienega, that's our theme. As you proceed north, driving through the Cienega, you bypass a pedestrian-only area that is going to link, it's a plaza, that's going to link our 2 department stores to our cinema. And as you come in here, there's the circular element here is drop-off. We anticipate restaurants being on those 2 corners. It would be valet parking. As I drive in through here, I don't find any parking. I can get out here. I can get out through this road, or this road. What we tried to do through the Cienega was, it's a very long Cienega, as it is in any mall. We tried to break it up several ways. One of the reasons it curves is to break it up so I'm not seeing the whole length of the way. It's 2,000 feet from this point to this point. So it's almost 7 football fields end to end. So we've got areas in here, smaller neighborhoods that we're starting to create now, where the streets cross. The streets will be 4-way stop controlled. There'll be a change of pavement at each intersection to slow the traffic down even further. There'll be buffering where the cars are parking. So we don't anticipate the traffic ever getting above 10 or 15 miles an hour on that road. And I'd like to kind of look at the site plan basically from the inside out, and now take it to the outside. We've got 12 access drives into the site, 4 of which are fully signalized. We have a signalized intersection right here on McDowell. We've got another one, on Bullard. Got another one here on McDowell, and 2 more on 151st. Once you enter the site, you'll hit a ring road, much like you would in any conventional mall around the country. It's a 44-foot ring road. It will disperse the traffic around the site. We've got parking in front of our small shops, and again, they'll face the Cienega, they'll face the plaza. We've also got the lion's share of the parking is on the outside of the Cienega. And what that does, it creates an opportunity for people to come here and park and get right into the mall itself without having to fight for a space through the middle. Most of our restaurant tenants will be on this area here, on the end caps. So if I choose not to shop, I just want to come watch a movie, have dinner with some friends, my wife, you can park right in here, walk into a restaurant, use the valet, and get into the plaza or get into the shops if you like. Site plan itself, as Garrett touched upon, it's just under 1 million square feet. We've got 2 department stores, which will total 350,000 square feet. We've got a cinema over on the west side, which is about 65,000 square feet. It's a 14-plex state-of-the-art cinema. The rest of the center is about 500,000 square feet in individual shops. In this area here, this quarter of a circle, that's our food court. Fully enclosed, fully air-conditioned. Unique, and I'll let John speak more to that design, but the food court tenants are in an arc on the back of the food court. Full glass on this side and this side. We anticipate in the nicer months of the year, the glass doors could be opened up and the food court could just spill out into the plaza. So you could eat outdoor or in. The amenities, and I'll walk you through some of our amenities that we envision. Parking, we've got little over 5,000 parking spaces in this mall. This parking lot is just north of the theater and just west of this department store. No, that's not good. It just melted on us. What we've done to break up that large area of parking, it's about 750 stalls, is we've created landscaped walkways that divide that parking lot into thirds. They're 20 feet wide. They've got trees, they've got shrubs. The sidewalk will meander back and forth through that area and create a nice, lush ribbon to walk in and get into the circulation system within the mall. We've also taken the landscaping to a higher level than we've ever done before in any mall. Typically, a city or town will insist on 10 to 15% landscape coverage. We're over 25% here right now. So it's more trees than we've ever used in any other project. Within the parking lot itself, to create shade, typically you'll see a diamond with a small tree in it that in 3 or 4 years is done. What we've done is taken out 2 full parking spaces across the aisle. So it's 9 feet by 36 feet, curbed, raised. It'll have 2 trees in it. It'll have shrubs in it. It'll be irrigated. So we anticipate these trees getting very, very large. And that'll be in every parking lot. This is really starting to show the massing of the buildings. You can see the Central Spine, the Cienega, the 2 department stores. The yellow dots are signalized intersections that we've got. The red dots are other access points that lead you into the center. We've got some roads that come all the way through the center. We've got some roads that come halfway into the center. Most of our access drives, though, come in, they hit the ring road and disperse traffic around the outside to filter in to the center. These are some of our ideas of what we anticipate the Cienega looking like, the streetscape. The 2 pictures on the right show some opportunities for outdoor patio seating. On the left, you're looking at the actual Cienega, what it might be with the parking and the circulation. And then the 2 on the left show the pedestrian plazas and how those would work. Here's our greenscapes that we're very proud of. Most areas, obviously, the pedestrian plaza will be heavily landscaped. At key intersections, we will also create a lot of landscaping, a lot of small pocket parks, encourage shade gardens, festival gardens, opportunity for art, opportunity for sculpture garden. So we think that what we created in this outdoor center really packs a lot of amenities in a smaller area. These are some of the parks that we would anticipate using. We own Biltmore, as you know. We love the lawn. We want to bring some lawn into this area also, because I think it's a drawing point for the people. It creates a cool environment with shade. Some more examples of garden parks. They could be as large as the Biltmore. Open lawn, they could be as small as little pocket parks with 2 benches, tabletop, and a couple umbrellas. One I like to use when my wife goes shopping. This shows, it's a little difficult to read, but this shows a unique concept that we're still developing on the shade structures that we anticipate using down the middle of the Cienega. These shade structures will actually go across the road and the parking. They will be anywhere from 18 to 22 feet in height. What they will do is, as the sun is setting in the west, the western part of our development will be in natural shade because the building will shade itself. The shade structure, which the cars will be able to drive underneath and fire access will be completely accessible through it, will cast a shadow on the eastern edge of our development. So not only will we encourage our tenants to have their own awnings, shade structures, trellises, we're going to embellish that with something along this line. It's what we're calling a trellis system. We haven't developed it further yet. It needs a lot more study, but it could be, it's a tensile structure. It will be, could be very festive, could be an art form. We understand we would like to get as much shade as possible onto the main thoroughfare. We also are very excited on what that would look like at night. If it's uplit with some gentle, soft lights, it should just glow at night. And it will happen in several spots around the development. And with that, I believe I'd like to turn it over to John Tran with OmniPlan.
Good evening. I'm John Tran with OmniPlan Architects, and we are the design architects for the project and for Westcor. Ron's already run through the major concepts of the site, and so I'm here to talk with you more about some details of the buildings themselves, the architecture, the general aesthetics of the buildings. Some of the things that Ron's touched on that I want to reiterate that are important as far as the site concept go are the major streets. The Cienega, these are meant to be lush, heavily landscaped street. It's the main concept. The other elements that Ron touched on that I think are major major design elements as far as the site concept goes are the major and minor gardens, the connection, the pedestrian connection between the department store and the theater is a full pedestrian plaza that is going to be lush. It's got a variety of garden types. And then the last piece of the site concept, which we think is very important, as what you see on the screen right now, are these shade structures. We recognize that this is an outdoor mall. We recognize that there will be some questions about the issue of it being an outdoor mall. We think with the combination of these shade structures, which is unique to these projects, I don't believe there's a project out there that is an outdoor mall with these shade structures that span the street. The combination of these shade structures with the lush landscaping, with the canopies provided by the tenants in attendance, we think is going to provide you with a pretty lush, shaded environment to walk. So I'm going to move on here. So as I said, I'm going to talk about the buildings. Because of the scale of the building, these buildings, over 1 million square feet, this is a large project. Our goal on this project architecturally was to break down the scale, to make it more pedestrian friendly, to make it about different levels of experiences and a variety of experiences, so that you're not getting one big box, you're not getting the full large giant project that is large and potentially overwhelming. We've broken down the site into 14 buildings, and then each of these buildings are broken down into a series of components. And the major idea around the buildings is that they are not intended to be a uniform piece of architecture. We set up the framework, and the form giver to these buildings will be determined by the tenants and their branding. We think that's an important thing for these sorts of projects at this scale, especially to provide that level of variety, to break down the scale so that you're not walking down a 200-foot block of the same thing. The pictures on the screen are illustrations of some of the more successful things that we're talking about. It's very much like an organically grown street through a main street. How these things happen is someone builds a store, someone builds a store next to them. So even though there's not a consistency in the architecture, there will be a consistency in the scale, in the paving and the landscaping, in the amenities, and in the sort of the quality of the experience. And that's the thing that we and Westcor will control through a very thorough tenant criteria, which is to control the quality of which these facades are built. So some examples of what we're talking about here. So as a diagram, very quickly, the top drawing shows the basic shell building. This is what's provided by the landlord. It's a simple building, and as we get into the development of this building, we recognize that the back portion of these buildings are important, that it is four-sided architecture, and so we will take care to make sure that the back facades have the same level of quality and variety, and certainly not in the same level that we're talking about to the front, because most of these tenants are dealing with the front facade. However, we will, in the use of quality materials and the use of breaking down the scale of the back of these things, make these things about a four-sided architecture. So the bottom drawing describes what could potentially, it's a made-up series of facades that talk about what could happen on the core building. Sometimes you have sometimes you have a building that breaks the parapet. So, sometimes you do not. But so the back building is the thing that binds them. So we will encourage all of the tenants to go as high up as they can to break the parapet, so that you don't have a straight horizontal line, so that there is that variety in the parapet, and you can see the variety in the material. Just a very, very diagrammatic view of what this variety might mean at the street level. You can sort of see that even though they are all one-story buildings, there is a variety of height in there, variety of materials, and what would bind these things together are the streetscape things, the amenities, the furnishings, the street lighting, the paving material, the signage wayfinding program. So those are the things that are a common factor, and the rest of the buildings will have their own architecture built with a level of quality that we will maintain through our criteria. Again, some examples of what we're talking about when we're talking about the level of quality. Even though these aren't consistent in architectural style, again, that's not what we're going for here. We're going for consistency in a level of quality and finish rather than style. An important part of all of these buildings, we think, even though they are going to be different, they will have variety. We feel that the corners of each of these buildings are an important element to the blocks. They anchor the streets. They give you an icon at the end of the street. The tenants then at each of the corners will be encouraged by the fact that we will build something taller at the corner. They will be encouraged to then come up with their own facade to anchor the corners. Again, I show you some pictures of some department stores. These are some recent department stores that, again, just to show the variety. We don't know what's going to happen out there. We do know that we're going to control the quality. It'll be a high quality level of store. Again, another photo of some of the movie theaters that are out there. These slides show a higher level compared to the previous slide of color, of excitement, of lighting. This is the nature of what these people do. It's an entertainment district. We imagine that this store, or that this cinema, in conjunction with the food court, as Ron pointed out in the site plan earlier, is combined to make a pretty high entertainment district, a little bit livelier than the rest of the site. A very early rendition of what the street might be. I'm sorry, this image is quite small, but you can't see. But if you squint, it really kind of describes it tries to describe the scale of the street, the proportion of the street, the amount of green that's going through there, and one option of what these screening things are spanning the street. They may be tensile, they may be structural, but what they will do is they will provide a level of protection and screening for the street, for the sidewalks, and we believe for the store. A view of one of the courtyards. This is a shot looking from the department store court towards the circular drop-off porte cochere for the restaurants. This particular court could house sculpture, could house a green area for a play area. The idea there is again, a variety of different spaces so that you're not having the same experience. In this instance, it might be something that's more for children. The next court we'll see here might be something. This drawing shows the drop-off area, the porte cochere, the valet drop-off with the restaurants on the corner. The previous drawing was looking into this area, and so this area will have a large overhead canopy structure as well as the street. And we think that structure has an opportunity to be a real iconic form. It could be lit at night. It could really be sort of the centerpiece of the project in that it is the cross point between the Cienega and the pedestrian plazas. As I said, again, some other views. This is a view looking into the entertainment court. Again, a different system of overhead shade structure. Provide some variety. This might be the more upscale or the more adult restaurant area, where the previous slide was talking about more of a children's area. And then just a very quick massing view of the food court. This food court is a major part of the project. It's a large building, roughly 25,000 square feet. The big idea with food court is that it is a blend of the indoor and outdoor space, as Ron described before, so that you're able to utilize the exterior, the courts outside. The doors may come up. it's all glass. You see through the piece, and so it's meant to be an invisible building in some ways. It's not about the architecture consistent with what our building concept with the rest of the project is. It's about describing this or making the space, quality of the space, landscaping, light, and not so much the built buildings. And I believe, again, a quick plan diagram of what this food court is at this point. There we go. The theater on the west side, because the theater is tall, it will provide a level of protection shading-wise to the food court. The food court's meant to be all glass on these sides. There's a glass clear story around this side. So basically, when you are in this food court, it's like being outside. You're in an indoor-outdoor space full of light. Some images of early images of what spatially this food court might be. It's tall. It's flooded with light. It's got large overhangs to provide protection from the sun. I believe that is our last slide, and so we'll field any questions. I think all three of us.
Thank you. Well, that was quite informative and very exciting. Before we move on, will the records please indicate that Mr. Bay is now here.
Elmo?
Does the commission have any questions or comments that they would like to speak of? Mr. Gelzer?
The first slide that you showed where you had the overall master plan from Pebble Creek to Bullard, from McDowell north of Virginia and Encanto Avenue. We did not get a copy of that. Did you provide that, at least to this commissioner? Because I saved these so that when you come back next year, we're talking on the same language. And then secondly, could you go back to you had a PowerPoint presentation where you showed the basic owner's building, and then below that you showed the facades and the storefronts on the PowerPoint?
If we could fire up Elmo, if we could put that directly on the screen.
Okay.
Well, then, Madam Chair, Commissioner Gelzer, some of the diagrams that we're putting up here now, I guess one thing that we should maybe back up 2 steps and let you know, we would normally have already made a submittal to staff, a formal application to staff, and then flow through the normal process. Because we have a very aggressive schedule to try to get this project open in spring '09. We've been working with staff, and I guess I want to say we're preempting the process. We're actually asking for more input earlier in the process.
No, that's fine.
This is on the fly, and so the booklet that we have tonight is probably already twice as big as the booklet that we were able to get to you that you have in your packet. So we will make sure, we'll make sure that we get you this updated booklet with all these images in it immediately.
I want to ask a couple of questions. The first question, you talked the building at the far left-hand side, I believe, if you're facing it, which is kind of like the Abercrombie and Fitch building that you tentatively labeled. Looks like a 2-story building. However, all the outbuildings are going to be 1-story buildings. Will the department stores be 2-story buildings? Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
And actually, there will be the architecture will primarily be single-story buildings. There will be several 2-story buildings in the project. Department store will be 2-story. The theater, while it's really single-story, has a lot of height because of the way the theater's set up. There are a couple of other tenants that we're talking to that could have 2-story elements too. We're encouraging that because it'll add more character and more diversity to the architecture on the site. Additionally, some of the tenants right in the Main Street area, the main Cienega area, will be increasing their height and be 1.5 stories, in some cases even 2 stories high.
So that possibly a bookstore might have a loft that is actually a
Mezzanine.
2nd story, or a coffee shop up on top.
Yes,
Okay,
that's correct.
That really kind of segues into my next question. You talk about the basic building that the landlord's going to provide, and yet the tenant is going to provide the facades to give the building its character. How are you going? What incentives or what requirements are you going to have And how are you going to coordinate so that there is some, cohesion in the design versus everybody is tall and and so half the buildings are tall and half the buildings are short.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Gelser, that is really the key to this development. And it's a concept where we'll control it through a number of ways. When we bring forward our site plan package and it comes to you for approval, there will be a design guideline booklet that comes with that. That'll be the first step in really defining the kinds of tenants, the colors, the materials, the textures that will be able to go into these buildings. Beyond that, when we come in and actually start building the buildings, our leasing team, when they work with these tenants, John made a comment that we'll be encouraging the tenants to go higher than, we'll be encouraging the tenants, we'll be requiring the tenants in a lot of cases to fit this structure. And just as you mentioned, I mean, it wouldn't do any of us any good to build the same look of tenants across a building. We will be looking for a variety of tenants and a variety of storefronts to get the effect that we're looking at here. So that is absolutely a requirement.
As the master leasing agent, you will have you will have leverage in who goes into what spot and what the facade will look like. Okay, my last question is on the next page of this book, which basically seems to have the courtyard in the back, which I assume is for deliveries. I remember what the backs of malls and the interiors of malls look like. Will you be showing us some treatments of the back of the buildings in the future presentations with what the delivery docks are going to look like and how you're going to screen that and how you're going to basically deal with the fact that we have to get the trucks in to sell the merchandise and the delivery, and the fruits and vegetables for the restaurants.
I'll let John answer that one.
Sure. An important thing to recognize on the site plan, I think, is that most of these buildings are four-sided. If we look on the west side, I'll use this pointer. If you look on the west side of the development, these buildings are meant to have facades all along the west face. So these buildings are basically four-sided. When we have a break for any sort of service in this building, and this building, these buildings, we anticipate a screen wall, some type of some design. Beyond that, we recognize that this is how people enter our buildings. They enter from the backside, from the parking lots to the street. So we'll be taking special care to use quality material back there to break up the massing so it's not one long thing. In the same way that we're trying to do it with the tenants in the front, obviously in the back, there won't be as much glass. There won't be as much show windows. It is a service thing, but we will use lots of screen walls and landscaping back there. On these two buildings, where we don't have as many outside-facing facades, you can sort of see this island of landscaping. This really is one of the key entry points into the site. It's one of these paseos that is a small walkway between these two buildings. It's a smaller scale. It's perhaps one of the pocket parks that Ron was referring to earlier that leads people from the parking lot into the project. So, the backside of these things are very important to the experience of the customer for us as well. So, we'll be doing everything we can to make that not the back of house.
Okay.
And if I might,
I look forward to seeing your results.
I was just going to clarify, too, on that point, that when we come forward with our site plan and a design guideline booklet for approval, we will have those concepts in there for the Planning Commission to review and give us feedback and approve, hopefully, as it goes forward. So you get to see the backs of those buildings and what the architecture looks like up front.
Anyone else? Sure.
I just have a quick comment. I like the fact you brought grass into it, like at 24th Street. It's not just rock, and that you're getting away from just that big box. So I'm glad you go to open air, and I really do look forward. I like what you've shown us so far, and I'm excited to see what it's going to be like.
Thank you, Commissioner. We're excited, too.
To help me put it in perspective, the street widths that you talked about, are they? Can you tell me, are they about the same width, or are they a little wider than, say, what is at Carolyn Commons?
The street widths are comparable to any mall today. What we've got, and actually the outer ring road, which you don't have at Kierland, but the outer ring road here is 44 feet, so it's 4 lanes.
I'm sorry, I meant thank you, I meant the interior.
The interior roads are 30 feet. Typically a mall is 28 feet. This is 30. It'll be striped as 2 lanes, 2 15-foot lanes, but 3 cars will be able to pass.
Building face to building face.
Thank you.
Building face to building face, we're looking at probably 100 feet here. 30-foot road, 20-foot parking, and 15-foot on each side.
So very spacious, good.
So it'll be very open. You can see this is 100. The plaza is 100 in spots, and then it gooses down a little bit to create more intimate areas. So it's not just one straight shot. For here, from this department store to the cinemas, about 1,000 feet.
Great, thank you.
Excuse me, I apologize for being late, but that's typical for me. I would like to ask a little bit about your process, or phasing process, and you may have mentioned this prior to me arriving. You have several structures that will be going up throughout the entryway, and you plan for opening in of April of 2009. So do you anticipate all of these structures going up at once, or is this a phased approach?
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioner Bay. What we plan to build up front, yeah, it's up on Elmo there, for that spring 09 opening, March 09 opening actually is what we're shooting for right now. All of the buildings that you see in the yellow, this tan, would be open at that date.
Oh, okay.
What you might have missed was these peripheral parcels around the outside. While we'll be, our design guideline booklet will address those, and those will come forward and have to complement the design there. We're not going to be coming in for that final approval up front. We're just going to be coming in for this core mall area, and then you'll see restaurant pads and shops and banks and other things that typically will come around our mall. Those will come in future phases, as well as the other. I'll go ahead and throw the master plan back on there. To step back just a little bit, this is then the mall site we were just looking at. This is the entire 300-acre development that we're partners with Globe Corporation on. The Power Center would be developing and opening first phase in 2008, but all of this other commercial that we're showing on here will open in future phases, probably for the next, say, 5 to 10 years. That's a pretty typical build-out for one of our regional mall areas.
And what about this outreach down on the southern end? When is that anticipated?
This parcel right here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, we don't have any specific project set for that yet, but what we have found, once we get under construction on our power centers and then get under construction on our regional mall, with all the street construction, the I-10 widening that will be happening out here, once that gets done, we will be getting a lot of attention from every other retail and commercial use that wants to serve this market, and that will be a great piece of property to come back to some retail. But it'll be a future phase.
That's also where you have your pylon signs, is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. That's a location for 2 or 3 pylon signs. Depending on the design. That's correct.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Gilder.
Do you, in the master plan, do you envision any hotels? And if so, how tall? What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner Gelser, this master plan that we're showing here, and I will point out that this development between this wash amenity, the park that'll be going in, this development through here is really conceptual. We don't have any development planned for it yet. This is just actually, I think, John's idea of how this might develop for us. The tan is retail. The pink buildings are office, and these 2 buildings right here are shown as hotel. And so we're definitely planning for hospitality uses here. Actually, what these 2 hotels show, these are shown as more of maybe a limited service type hotel, and then this hotel here, we're hoping for a more full service hotel with banquet facilities, conference facilities, and perhaps restaurant even, and there could be additional height there. I think our height for our project by zoning right now is, I want to say it's either 60 or 65 feet, and I'm not sure, you guys know for sure. Does that sound about right, Harvey? And if we had a hotel user that came in and wanted to go a few stories higher, and you see some of the Marriott and Hilton concepts that do, well, we would certainly talk to staff and then come back in and work with commission and council to try to make that happen.
Talk to commission and make it happen.
Be great, wouldn't it?
Actually, my comment kind of piggybacks Mr. Gelser's. Just so happened that the last 5 days, I am a retailer, and I was at a conference that was in San Antonio on the Riverwalk, and I stayed at the Marriott right there on the Riverwalk in the mall. And as I sat there with their little kind of staging area where they had calypso music and calypso band all day long, I sat there reading my packet, going, gee, isn't this ironic? And that is one thing that I'd truly like, to set our mall apart from others. It's the experience. It's truly the experience of this. Half the people are there for the shops, the other half, it's the experience is what they want. I'm glad that you hit upon the valet parking. I was going to ask that little bit of a nicety was at some point somewhere within the center.
Our sit-down restaurants will insist on it.
Good. Well, that's nice. I was looking at this. This didn't truly give me a feel for where a staging area could be. Not that we want an amphitheater, but an area where something like that could be constantly going on within the day, and especially the 9 months of the year, that you felt like if you wanted to go and sit and bring the kids and they played on the grass and you got to veg, that is what you could do, One concern that I had, and maybe you can help me out with this, with the circulation, not that I've been there too often, but I've gone out to Desert Ridge Mall, which is another open area, and have been just about ran over trying to cross from the parking lot to the actual center. And they have these beautiful areas, but there's no kind of stop sign. There's nothing there that's truly saving me as a pedestrian. And so if you could maybe help me out there a little bit.
What we got, Madam Chairman, is at every intersection, there'll be a four-way stop through the main spine. And
Okay.
we anticipate a lot of people driving down the main spine, and the pedestrian should be able to cross easily 4 ways at each intersection. We've got stop signs at every 4-way stop through the site. The parking that we have here, some of the lots, other than around the department stores, are quite a bit smaller than some of them at Desert Ridge. Desert Ridge lots are very large. And you have to cross the road to get to the center. Where here, you could come down the middle and feed out. So I don't think we're going to have a problem to the extent of the Desert Ridge.
Couple of the niceties, you could say, within some of the malls that I've been to, you might actually, through the center of a parking lot, have a sidewalk that is a covered sidewalk, some kind of, top that's giving a truly protected, whether from the sun and from just traffic going through. And then others, you did touch on trellises, which were great. Even trellises that you spoke of art structures as trellises, but also trellises that may have green vines, flowering vines, something that gives just another density to it.
Right. I think there's an opportunity for trellises also where we've got these pass-throughs here. Maybe there's a trellis out in this area, and this area, and this area, and this area to denote, to let the customer know that that is a pass-through, that's where you go through and get out to the parking areas.
And then, Madam Chair, your comment about the covered walkways. While we don't at this point have any structurally covered walkways, I think as Ron pointed out, these locations through the main parking fields, we are looking at a 20-foot wide landscape and meandering sidewalk where we'll have very large trees.
Canopying trees.
Canopying trees, exactly. So we'll get that feel without actually having to have the structure.
We'll have 13 foot of planting. I mean, we'll have a 6 or 7 foot sidewalk, and then there'll be 13 feet. The sidewalk will flip sides as it goes, so it won't go just down the middle. So you'll always have a 13-foot space to plant. You can get some healthy trees.
How about shuttles? any kind of, within this parking areas? I mean, I'm just asking if that had been a thought.
Madam Chair, at this point, we hadn't discussed that yet. One of your points earlier, you talked about the Riverwalk and other projects like that. And retailing now, in the 80s, it was a lot about building those monolithic structures where you went to shop.
Right.
And then that started to change, and you now want to go and you want to shop, and you want to have dinner, you want to be entertained, you want to go to a bookstore, you want to do all these mix of uses in the same location. And we've found that these lifestyle outdoor centers, that's where all the retailers are being more successful. And it gives us an opportunity to add some of the amenities. You mentioned an amphitheater. I think it's an opportunity to add in these green spaces through here. While it might not be a quote amphitheater, it will be locations.
Like a staging area.
Yes, you'll have places where someone could come and do a performance, and people could group around them. We use the lawn at Biltmore as one, model for that kind of area. A lot of turf, a lot of grass, a lot of cool.
Could double as a venue for some sort of music in the evening. It could double as story time for the kids during the day.
That's what's going to make this a great project and really the pride of the whole valley.
Oh, wonderful. Any other comments? Everybody good? Thank you, gentlemen. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Sean?
Gary's head was blocked.
Was Gary?
It's not my fault.
No wonder we never see you.
Do you have something else?
No, Sean does.
Sean. I said Sean. Yes, sir. You can ask for a soccer store? Is that okay?
The Cienega concept seems to rely somewhat on water being the main part, and in looking through this, it just briefly, here and there we'll say water, and there wasn't really much in the design or any of the concepts that really illustrated what your plans for. I don't want to say a water feature, but for lack of a better term, what the plans are to integrate water in this development. Because as I see it, rightly or wrongly, it looks like the traffic becomes the water as opposed to an actual.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Lowe, I'll let these design gentlemen talk about that, but you're right. The metaphor of the Cienega, that main street through the middle is that, but I'll let these guys talk about how important water will be.
I think water is a very powerful element that needs to be brought in to this project. The sound of it, the coolness of it. And John's got some slides here, and I'll let John walk you through them, what we envision how water will be successfully used throughout the project.
I think you can see from these slides there are examples of different levels of water use. In our mind, the Cienega, because it's a street with cars, clearly it's a metaphor. Clearly there won't be real water running down the middle of the street. However, along the way, along the pockets, along where we can carve out space, which we are doing, we saw on the site plan, there will be opportunities for small notions of water. And I think a little bit of water goes a long way. You hear it, you see it. You don't necessarily have to jump in and wash your hands. In fact, you really don't want people doing that from a health perspective. But you want to be able to see a little fountain, and so those things will happen along the way on the Cienega. When we get to the cross pedestrian walkway, where we do have wider spaces where there are no cars going through, I think there would be an opportunity for a larger notion of water, and we anticipate there will be. In each of those courts, there would be some notion of water. Because you're right, I mean that's the metaphor, and we want to, in as much as we can, provide some of that.
That's a very important element. Yeah, we agree.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you,
gentlemen. Look forward to seeing you soon.
See you soon.
Okay. She'll be going on to case B, which is case 06-200-00019, Amaranth Area 1, Montage 690, final planned area development. I shall open the public hearing, ask for a staff's report. Thank you, everyone. Give it a second for them to.
Lost all the audience. They're all gone.
Everett.
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, members of the public, I will be talking about the Amaranth Area 1 final PAD and also about the Amaranth Area 1 preliminary plat, which includes a portion of the final PAD. And I'll just combine those two presentations for you. I've placed an exhibit up on Elmo to show you. It's just a vicinity map. You can see Amaranth Area 1 is kind of a dark greenish color here. Amaranth Area 1, previously we called this case Montage 690, but Amaranth Area 1, it's located in the Mobile area. You can see the Mobile Elementary School is right here. So it's in unincorporated Maricopa County. It's about 8 miles west of the city of Maricopa, which is in Pinal County. The subject property lies adjacent to north of State Route 238 and the Southern Pacific Railroad, and it's near the Maricopa County Pinal County line. Is right here. So to the north of the 690, there's BLM property and also the 7 Mile Mountains. To the south is State Road 238 and the railroad line. To the east is Pinal County and also BLM property. And to the west is undeveloped land, which is zoned Rural 190 and Rural 43. And that does include several small manufactured homes in a landscape within the Waterman Wash floodplain. Zooming in on the land use plan, as the Commission is aware, the community is planned as a series of neighborhoods. And there's a village center in this Amaranth Area 1. The village center is shown in red. The village center will contain mixed-use development. It will include retail, office, and community buildings, institution buildings, and also housing. This is a very unique community. It's a type of development that the city of Goodyear has not seen yet, and this region has not seen. And in this community has been designed in such a way so that the street network and the landscaping areas and the open space areas are all linked together. You will note that there are no walls proposed for the subdivision. So people will be able to walk around. The development plan shows that the design it's built for people as opposed to designing the subdivisions around the use of the automobile. The Amaranth Area 1 plan does include 2 elementary school sites, one here, one here. This will be the first one. It will include a park associated with the school. The next area that I want to talk about is called the core neighborhood area, which is shown in orange. And these are the highest residential densities in this final PAD. And you can see they kind of radiate outward from the village center. The mid-neighborhoods are shown in yellow, and they'll be located beyond the high-density neighborhoods. They'll feature neighborhood parks and signature streets. They will parallel the natural open space corridors or drainage ways. And these neighborhoods, shown in yellow, will also have direct links to the regional trail system. Now, finally, the edge neighborhoods, shown in beige at the top, very, very light beige color. They're planned around the perimeters of the community, and so these areas will enjoy the amenity of the natural desert and the mountain views. And most importantly, there's a approximately 40-acre open space park, community park, that the developer is planning for a soccer complex for this center. Moving on to a lotting plan. The final PAD is proposed to include up to 2,700 homes. This is 690 acres. This would result in a gross density of about 4 dwelling units per acre. Amaranth Area 1 does include about 110 acres or 16% of parks and open space. And the goal has been for all of the homes to be located within at least a quarter mile to a park, so that everyone can walk to these amenities. The requested final PAD zoning is consistent with the land use designations provided in the city's general plan. And now I want to shift and talk briefly about the preliminary plat. The preliminary plat, which is the next case on the agenda, does not contain the entire area shown in the final PAD. The plat contains 276 acres, which comes out to be about 736 lots and 83 tracts. The applicant may want to speak to this, but the plats take a long time to be created, and they were able to finish about half of it at this time. As I mentioned before, this area it's a very unique design, and as such, a new set of development standards was needed to accommodate this type of development. And in your packet, you received a final PAD submittal, which includes very unique street sections. It includes a unique open space system and a drainage system. And as I mentioned before, the street network was designed to link the community, and the streets contain more public spaces. Public spaces were designed into the street standards. The goal of the design of the streets was to accommodate pedestrians and to encourage pedestrian activity, so that people can walk and receive of these services that they will live adjacent to. So as such, you will notice that there are new street cross-sections in your final PAD submittal. Staff has accepted these new or different street cross-sections. Staff believes that these alternative design standards are appropriate and is recommending approval of the final PAD and the associated development standards. I did want to speak briefly on the proposed housing in this area. The final PAD also contains a very substantial set of design guidelines for architecture for the residential development, which staff has been pleased with because it gives staff assurance of what these homes are going to look like. You'll note that there are much smaller lots in this development than Goodyear has seen in the past. It's a different type of development. All of the smaller houses will be rear loaded. So we will have the garages in the back, which provides an opportunity to have very unique architecture in the front. The garage door and the face of the garage does not take the majority of the architecture for these small areas. But you will note in your packet, the design guidelines are very comprehensive. They establish the parameters by which the future builders have to comply and will have to design their houses. And staff has been pleased with the way that has been set up, and also the number of plans that will be provided and the level of diversity that will be provided. Those standards far exceed Goodyear's design standards for residential development. Wanted to refer you to the stipulation number 5 in regards to the soccer complex that I've mentioned. Staff has received an application for a 10,000 acre PAD for Amaranth, and the applicant has noted that the soccer fields and the soccer complex, they are an important element of this first phase, but also to the entire community. The applicant has noted that in the future, a potential expansion of the center of the commercial center may benefit the overall community due to its location. And so, as this soccer complex is expanded in the future, the applicant has noted that it may be necessary to relocate this complex into a different area in the PAD. Staff has placed stipulation number 5, which states that the relocation of any of the soccer complex, changing to any other uses would require a PAD amendment. So if there was any type of relocation of components of the community park in the future, it would have to go before the Planning Commission and City Council. The remaining stipulations, 7, 8, and 9, relate to Lufthansa Airport and the training airport in the area, providing proper notice, ensuring that the future homebuyers will be notified and that they will know that their airplanes and the operation is in the area. And stipulations 10, 11, and 12 are in regards to waste management, Butterfield landfill. Again, notifying people that there is a landfill in the area. It will show them how far away they are from the existing landfill, and will ensure that they know that they are going to be adjacent to it. I apologize, there's one revision to stipulation, to the stipulations regarding Lufthansa. Commissioner DeBroekert pointed out that we need to revise stipulation
11.
number 11. The last few words of the stipulation, the word aircraft appears in there. We're talking about the waste management landfill. So we will revise that language to refer to waste management and the operations of the landfill prior to the council meeting. The same stipulation needs to be revised on the preliminary plot as well. So this concludes the presentation by staff. Staff is available to answer any questions. Joe Porter with Montage is also available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? Mr. Welks.
Brett, stipulation number 3, and then at least on the final PAD, and then stipulation 5 on the preliminary plat. Have I been asleep, or is this something that we're now requiring? Residential sprinklers?
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, I'll defer that question to the applicant.
Thank you.
Madam Chairperson and members of the Commission, nice to see you again. Thank you for pouring through all of that. We really appreciate it. We are working on a development agreement with the staff, and this will be subject to the development agreement, and it's a development agreement for not only this first phase or this first village, but it's for the entire 10,000 acres. And in that development agreement, we've had extensive conversations with the city staff related to public safety, and it's a satellite community. We're getting started down there. The city staff and public fire department, well, everybody in the city has been very clear that that's a direction the city would like to go. So we're committing to sprinklers in the development, fire sprinklers, and it's going to be documented in the development agreement.
So that I'm understanding this correctly, so this has been something that the city has pursued or requested of you, as opposed to this being something more on your end and including it. It's at the request of the city, I guess. Is
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, staff recommends that stipulation be removed. The development agreement for the 10,000 acre PAD and also for the 690 PAD will address fire sprinklers, and we do not believe that stipulation needs to be added in the zoning or the pre-plat in these two cases.
Why are you taking it out then? I mean, why are we taking it out if we're going to put it in a development agreement?
Madam,
I mean, I know we've had an election over this, and we've had some issues over this, but the developer in their presentations to us and to council has indicated that they're going to require the builders to do this. So let's just leave it in so that the builders, those who come, know that they're going to have to put in sprinklers. End discussion. It's not a voting thing. I don't think we should be taking it out.
Madam Chair, they have voluntarily agreed to put sprinklers in. We're not mandating sprinklers. We've asked them to put sprinklers. The development agreement is a two-way. It's a contract, and they're agreeing to do it, and we're saying, okay, that's fine. This appears to be a one-way. When we do zoning, we're putting a stipulation, which is a mandate on them to do sprinklers, and I don't think this will pass our city attorney's test. So I would recommend we take it out. It's referenced in the PAD document that they said that they're going to do it, and the zoning is contingent on the PAD. So I think we're covered with the development agreement and the PAD. I would rather not see a stipulation to that effect.
Okay, are you asking to just take it out of the zoning thing, but
And
you're
the
going to
plat.
leave it in the PAD?
No, it's out of. It's not a stipulation, and it's not on the plat. It's referenced in their book that they're planning on doing it. It's their intention to do it, and it'll be in the development agreement.
Just removing it as a stip.
So it's being redundant.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not a requirement of the city. We had a referendum. It was turned down. We cannot circumvent the referendum through putting stipulations on zoning and plats for sprinklers.
Well, part of the development agreement and part of the idea behind the fact that we're going to have to locate a satellite, eventually we're going to have a fire station down there, and part of the idea is that 90% of our calls are emergency medical calls versus fire calls, and the fact that we've predicated the fact that the developer or the master developer has said they want all houses to have sprinklers, and they're going to tell their people to do that. So I understand the fact that the development agreement is a contract. I'm concerned when we start pulling this out and then leaving it in one final place. And what happens if they change their minds down the road?
It's their option.
I mean, the fact that we have a stipulation that says in this because of, we've basically said.
That's the purpose in the development agreement, is to provide for that. They're doing it voluntarily and getting consideration for those things that you mentioned.
Right.
And in zoning, there's no consideration. We're granting zoning, but we're putting a requirement that they put sprinklers in. And it's not, it can't be a requirement. It's got to be something that they're doing voluntarily in consideration for some other things.
It can't be a requirement because that is what our voters.
And our voters have already
That's
determined that shouldn't be a requirement citywide. The voters have already spoken on
But
that
this isn't
subject.
citywide. This is in their property, and for consideration, they are getting consideration of their getting this zoning granted.
Is this a question that we need to have?
No, I'm sure our city attorney will tell us.
You're
what they
sure?
think.
Okay.
We need to throw that away.
I just might, yeah.
Okay. I have a couple of questions, but I'll let the other commissioners roll.
All right.
It's not appropriate.
Thank you, Sean, for that question.
Yeah, that's really good.
Did you have any others?
No, I just wanted to follow up with sort of a comment, and I am somewhat then disappointed because it seems like this is a backdoor way of getting around that referendum. So I just wanted to go on record and saying that awfully sneaky.
Thank Thanks, sir. Any questions of staff or?
Just on this fire sprinkler.
I'm sorry?
On the fire sprinkler.
Okay. Sure.
I understand you can't put it in there, but honestly, it gave me some peace of mind to see that, and if it's in the development agreement and you say that you're going to do it, because when I looked at the fire response times, I found that as a concern, you know, that we're talking about possibly getting people off the Indian reservation 11 minutes, and, you know, when I saw the fire sprinklers in there, I thought that was a really positive thing, so if it's in the development agreement, that's how you're going to go, I appreciate that, but I would like to see it in that at least.
Any other questions of staff?
I do. Brett, the big book we got, page 54. I'm sure this is an oversight, but on 3 of the 4 design, the yard types, we have a trash pickup area, and the small detached houses in the lower right-hand corner, we don't have a trash pickup area. Am I missing? Is that's something that just got missed somehow? I'm assuming it's back on the alley on the back by the garages. Is that correct?
Madam Chairperson, Commissioners, what this is to indicate is on the alley-loaded units, unless there is a large trash receptacle for the multifamily houses, that the cans are planned to be on one side of the alley or the other. So on the lower right, on these small detached houses, the trash cans for pickup for both of these are on one side of the alley.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good. Moving along. Another question. On page 78, you have a picture, a cross-section of the Union Pacific Railway, the Highway 238, and the berm. Correct me if I'm correct. Highway State Route 238 at the present time is 4 lanes divided, or is it 2 lanes divided?
2 lanes, very good. It's just 2, Madam Chairman.
It's
just 2.
It's 2 lanes.
It's
right?
2 lanes, right.
Okay. What I would like to see added, and I'm sure the developer will not have too much heartburn over this, but I would like to see on the zoning, we have a stipulation 7, 8, and 9 that addresses the Lufthansa Airport. Stipulations 10, 11, and 12 address the Butterfield land development. Considering the fact that this is the Union Pacific Railroad's transcontinental high-speed corridor running from Texas to California, although they don't run it at high speed, but they would like to, I would like to see a series of 3 stipulations that talk about basically the same things, but I would like you to at least allude to the widening of 238 and the fact that the Union Pacific has a high-speed rail line over there. And if you don't have any problems with it, I think staff can write it up and we can present it to council, but I would like to see that tossed into the mix.
We assume that everybody like you would love it because there's a mainline rail going through there, but if that's not the case, we'll be happy to.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people, most people don't want to be living near the railroad tracks.
Oh, really?
On the side of the railroad tracks.
No, I think that's appropriate. We'll be happy to do that.
Okay, so staff, Brett, we can write a stipulation for both Highway 238 is going to be expanded to 4 lanes and the Union Pacific is there. And I think you can do it very, the same way that we've done it before. Okay, and I'm going to ask, I don't need to ask for that in the PAD also. Can we have that same thing? Because you have like STIP 15, 16, and 17, and you have STIP 18, 19, and 20 in the PAD that cover the same things, and I'd like to see an additional STIP, the same type of 3 STIPs that cover the railroad and the road. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gelzer. That was actually a disadvantage of being the chairman, is that he gets to go before me, and got to bring that to your attention. Any other questions of staff? Okay. Yes, sir?
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, staff is recommending that this case be continued to the March 21st Planning Commission meeting. And the reason for that is to ensure that there is additional notification, particularly to Pinal County and to the Pinal County Planning Department. So staff recommends that this case be continued and the subsequent case be continued to the March 21st Planning Commission meeting.
Okay, thank you. Would the commission like to continue with speaking with the applicants, and even though the request has come forth?
Could
Mr.
the
Porter, would
applicant
you-
address the continuance request?
Madam Chairperson and Commission, because there's a little portion of our property, about 150 feet, that touches Pinal County, and that raises the issue of the notification that was overlooked before. And so that notification needs to be made, and we're happy for the continuance. The plan is to take this, would be to have that meeting, and then on the 26th, take this to the council. So we have a very short period of time, and if we have that continuance, we'd like to get all of your comments and all of the input. So if there are things like you just raised, we can address those.
Address them
all right.
now.
And
Okay.
so the continuance, as I understand it, would be for the purpose of hearing that extra testimony from Pinal County.
Right, okay, thank you.
We'd
I'm
We'd
sorry.
really like to have it on the 14th, but you're going to be meeting every Wednesday that week, so we thought we'd move it, since you're meeting on the 21st.
Sean?
Just a procedural question then, Harvey. I mean, if we, I mean, unless Pinal County has something of significance to add, I mean, is this something we could add to the consent agenda for that meeting? We can take your testimony, provided you're not planning on doing any changes to the KCC. I mean, is that something that we can do so we won't have to go through?
It'd be pretty unusual to have a public hearing on a consent agenda. We could open the public hearing as for public comment and then close it and move it on, but we couldn't do it on the consent agenda.
Okay,
That wouldn't be appropriate.
okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a point of clarification for me. Now, you're saying that 150 feet of your property is in Pinal County?
No, adjacent, or parallels, touches the Pinal County
Oh,
line.
okay, I get it. All right, got it. Thank you.
Oh, this is
Give me that's a heavy question.
see right here, see this little parcel right here?
Yes.
That's the parcel. So the county line is right here.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no other questions of staff. So, Mr. Porter, would you like to continue? Don't leave.
Chairperson, Commissioners, thank you again. I've talked to you several times about this in various forums, and I don't think we necessarily need to go through the entire thing again. I'd like to update you on a couple of things. We are proceeding with signatures for the annexation, and we will have the signatures and submit the signatures for the annexation to the city on the 1st. We're coming along very well. Just notification of mail because of the work we had done before. We have about 90 signatures, and that's just about enough for the annexation. We're going to continue, and we think we'll have a substantial number of signatures by the 1st. So that's moving along very well. So the annexation and the development agreement and this final PAD and this preliminary plat are on the agenda for the City Council the 26th of next month. All right. The 10,000-acre PAD has also been submitted, and the staff and the referral agencies are reviewing that. And, of course, there's not time to have that review thoughtfully done in that period of time, but that will follow soon afterwards. So we're moving along very well. We have this is a different kind of submission than the cities reviewed before. The staff has really dug into it with us and looked at things, and we've gone back and forth about a lot of things. When it was all said and done, we don't really have that many things. It's not that inconsistent with the city's standards, but we've just done some things differently. For example, our collector streets are narrower than typical collector streets because the houses are rear-loaded. So on a typical collector street, you couldn't have parking on the street. I mean, you couldn't have houses front on it because if people come out of driveways, it interferes with traffic. But here we have houses front on it, but they're serviced in the back. So it was things like, oh yeah, on this kind of collector street, you really can have houses front on it. In fact, it's desirable. There were a lot of things like that that we just had to talk through. And the reason I mention it, the staff has been absolutely marvelous. They've worked with us. Worked hard on it, and it's been kind of a great relationship of working through this, and we really, thank them a lot. So I think, one more thing, the name. I don't think I've explained the name to you. You haven't lived until you've tried to name a new community. It is really a pain. And we had a lot of criteria. We wanted it to mean something. We wanted to be able to have it symbolic of something. We wanted it to connect to the past and the land and all of the things you'd want to do. And most important, it had to be a name that somebody hadn't used before, and all the good names are taken. So we found this word amaranth, and it's really an interesting word. When I first looked it up in the dictionary, it says an imaginary flower that never fades. And so here was the first name that seemed to be available. I said, wow, that's neat. It's a flower. And it's a very diverse family of flowers. The amaranth flower grows in the desert, also grows in the tropics. There are beautiful members of the family. There are some members of the family that we probably won't market. Tumbleweed, for example, is part of the amaranth family. So it's like anybody's family. There are family members that you introduce around, and there's some that you don't talk about, all right? It comes from the Greek word everlasting, and it was symbolic of just everlasting life in Greece, and that's where the flower came from. And the reason that it has its name is it doesn't lose its color when it dries. So it's used in forever bouquets. It's also a high protein, the seed's a high protein food source, and the Incas and the Aztecs actually harvested amaranth. And the day after we settled on the name, I was going through Whole Foods, and sure enough, there were amaranth flakes. So now, if you eat your amaranth flakes, and you'll grow up to be strong and like Harvey. Okay. So anyway, it's just kind of engaged us, and symbolically, with very little thought, we immediately thought here is and by the way, that the people in Mobile are interested in the past being recognized, and so it is a community whose seeds were sown by those who came before. It's our role today to make it blossom, and it'll be sustained and made everlasting by future generations. So we feel very good about it, and I wanted to share it with you. The first time Harvey heard it, he said amaranth, but now I've convinced Harvey that it's a good name. So anyway, I wanted to share that.
I apologize.
And that's, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yes, Ms. Lortano.
I'd like to see a picture of the amaranth. But I have a question about the phasing of your community.
Mm-hmm.
Being in a community right now that we don't have a grocery store or anything nearby, and that you are going to be kind of out I don't want to say in the middle of nowhere because it's coming to you, but when you start this, there's not going to be a lot out there. What is your phasing for your commercial with regard to this?
We're going to, our opening day, this road will be in, and these two commercial buildings will either be constructed or underway. This plaza will be in. We'll have residential around it, and then this area will be our show house area. And in this commercial, we're going to start with some kind of a small grocery store or service grocery store. We will add on to that as soon as we can, usually at about 3,000 units. So part of our plan is, because it is out there, and it's, we want to build something that people can see, and we're going to front end the cost of that and also have the soccer complex built. So that's going to be our opening day. Something will be there from the beginning, and then we'll expand it as soon as possible.
And then to kind of piggyback on that, also with regard to some of the commercial, are you looking to bring in employers into this area? Because I saw the little centers, we're going to have all these Target centers in this area, and like kind of communities. Because my other concern is that not to build another, although it's a nice community, another Anthem out there where people buy these great houses and commute in.
We're going to come back to you very soon and talk about the entire 10,000 acres. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we're proposing is at the future interchange of 303 and 238, at some point in time in the future, there'll be a freeway-to-freeway interchange. We want to create a town center there, a town center with absolutely as much density as possible would be created at the time, and the only way that we're going to do that is to have employment in this community, and you'll see that overall master plan has a significant amount of employment.
And then I have one more quick question, if I may. Your houses, I like the fact there's different sizes. I didn't notice in there the specifics, the general, obviously you don't know specifically, the general square footage this is going to run. I saw some really large houses and some what you called workforce houses. So what is the square footage that these are going to run?
Well,
if you know about.
The staff kind of called them workforce houses. We kind of call them houses they're I think that the smaller housing neighborhoods are going to be interesting because I think they're going to attract two markets. One is the entry-level family, and then the other are my people, who are looking for a place to live maybe on a fixed income. And so we're going to have some smaller units, and we've asked ourselves, and the people we've been talking to, the question, people my age, how big was the house that you grew up in? And there's nothing wrong with a 1,400 or 1,500 square foot house with 1.5, 2 or 3 bedrooms and 1.5 baths. That's smaller to start with. So I think they'll start in that range and then go up to absolutely the wealthiest people we can attract.
I saw some big ones in that. That's why I was asking.
Okay, but the idea is to have that diverse range, and we're going to design the first 2 or 3 series of smaller houses. We finally concluded that we can work with builders, and we know some builders, but this is not a good time to get builders to spend money on doing something new. So we're going to identify some builders and bring them into the process, but we're going to design those first buildings. We've identified the architects, and we're going to start in about 2 weeks. So we're going to work very hard on those smaller units because these are smaller houses in a very intimate neighborhood, and it's got to work. It's got to be great. It's got to be acceptable to you and to them and to us and the builders. And
really quickly, I was also concerned about the fire sprinklers, so I am glad with the response time that you are looking to use those as well.
Okay.
That's all.
Anyone else? Mr. Burke? No? Well, I have a few questions. When you first originally came to us discussing this whole wonderful plan, I truly believe in the future of Goodyear to go to where you are. But, and then you're out of the box thinking, and you're a satellite city that, all these words that maybe I'm in a concrete box that somebody's trying to pull me out, because it's been really hard for me to think out of that way. I really have appreciated your plan. I think that you've come up with a very unique situation that will be good for us. I'm still concerned about our connectivity. I would love to know some more about when that road is going to come through, because that's part of my coming through the concrete.
Could we get the slides on for a second? I'll show you something.
I'm sorry? Put the slides on? Is that
Eddie, can you turn on the PowerPoint?
No, you want Elmo.
Huh?
You want Elmo, right?
I've got a PowerPoint presentation. I just want to show you one slide in response to that.
Thank you.
He's setting it up.
Another question, are there going to be any, within all this looking, I didn't see any single-story homes. Everything was two-story.
Oh, no. In all the residential neighborhoods, except the townhouses, there are a combination.
There are, okay. Everything I saw was was two-story, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no. There's definitely a mix.
All right.
Well, anyway, to answer the question, we're going to extend that road from the end of Rainbow Road now down to 238. And we have to take that through BLM land. We have engineers designing that road right now and working with the city staff to develop the specs for that road. And we're working with BLM. We think the BLM permit could take a year. We'd like to be driving on that road in 2 years.
And when do you foresee the first home to be completed within?
Well, we were hoping to have the model complex and that first village ready to start selling in January of '08. I think it's probably gonna move to the middle of '08, and I think we'll be under construction of for sale homes immediately after that.
Okay. So you think within a 6-month lapse of time you'll have that connectivity? Or do you think that along with your being delayed, it will delay the road?
No. The road. The only reason we're being delayed is, well, it's taken us a little bit longer to get here than we thought. But we would normally, in a better market, we would have builders working on houses now, and since we're going to do that ourselves, it's just delayed us a little bit. It's just been a little bit of creep. Okay.
Well, I'm glad to see that you were happy with putting in the fire sprinklers, because that is another part of this out of my realm of comfort.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Did you get that up? Okay, he's ready.
Do I advance this? Brett? Well, the only thing, I just have an exhibit that shows that road alignment. I'm not sure it's that important.
Oh, okay.
We'll be able to share that with you.
Yeah, it was more the phasing of the, yeah, okay. Okay, any other questions? We all are aware of continuation. So I shall, actually, I apologize. Before I go on, is there anyone that would like to speak from the public regarding this case? Okay. I should close the public hearing and ask for commission action or discussion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue case 06200-00019 to March 21 meeting of Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. I have a motion.
I'd like to second it. Can I ask that we also amend that to ensure that we also scratch stipulation number 3 from that as well, for that continuance?
For that continuance?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
All righty. We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Ray. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And we shall open up.
Can I just ask you a procedural question?
Yes, sir.
For the next meeting, can we use these same books? We don't have to republish the books. We can save a tree? Thank you.
Can I ask a clarification of staff? I asked for a couple of additional stipulations, and they weren't made in the motion. You're planning on adding those, so when we come back, or before council gets it, we'll have all the stipulations on the Road 238 and Union Pacific Railroad.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gelser, the stipulations will be added for you to see on the 21st.
That's fine.
Thank you. Case letter C 07-500-00003 Amaranth Area 1 Phase 1 preliminary plat. Applicants Montage Holdings. Shall open the public hearing. Staff like to add anything else? The applicants? No. The public? No. Shall close the public hearing and ask for commission action.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we continue case 07-500-00003 to the March 21 meeting with the added stipulations and deleted stipulations. And revised stipulation.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lux. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Very good. We'll see you again. Okay, letter D, case 05-200-00010, Pebble Creek Village Marketplace, final planned area development. We should open the public hearing. Ask for our staff presentation.
Thank you, Madam.
Hello, Brett.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, members of the public, the next two cases are regarding the Pebble Creek Village Marketplace. I will talk about the final PAD, which includes design standards and a comprehensive sign package. The following case is a use permit for a freeway pylon sign. I'll combine the presentations for you. The applicant is requesting the rezoning of approximately 25 acres of land. It's located at the south west corner of McDowell Road and Pebble Creek Parkway, as you can see on the aerial photo. The rezoning is to facilitate the development of a mixed-use commercial center. Land uses and existing zoning surrounding the property. To the north, you can see is the future Cobblestone Creek Commercial Center that Suncor is developing. The Cobblestone Auto Spa and Car Wash will be located there. To the east, Goodyear Center Point PAD. To the south, I-10. And to the west is undeveloped property zoned agricultural. As part of the final PAD, you will note that you have a very large submittal that contains design guidelines, architectural guidelines, landscape architectural guidelines, signage, and all of the minimum site development standards. And this is done to ensure a level of quality for the development. For this commercial development is master designed and will be a unified development. Move to a site plan exhibit. As you can see, that this center will have access from both McDowell Road and Pebble Creek Parkway. See, there's entrances here on McDowell Road, two here on Pebble Creek Parkway. There will be a traffic signal at the intersection of McDowell and Pebble Creek Parkway. There will also be a traffic signal here at McDowell Road and we're calling it the main driveway entrance. That main driveway entrance is located approximately 800 feet west of the intersection. Both of the driveway locations on Pebble Creek Parkway will be limited to right-in, right-out turning movements. And of course there will be additional roadways and access on the interior of the site. Just a few things to note on the site plan. This large footprint here is for an Arizona Tile building, which is approximately 99,500 square feet. The applicant does have a site plan application in that the staff has accepted and reviewed for that specific user. There are, it's called junior anchors here, but they're small mini majors. Staff would call them mini majors. This box here is approximately 30,000 square feet. So you've got the mini majors. You've got shops located, rectangular shops in these areas. You'll also note that there are some pad locations, but they're grayed out. There's a pad location here that's grayed out, one here that's grayed out, and one here that's grayed out. The reason they're grayed out is because they would require a use permit. This center is subject to the City Center Gateway Overlay District, and so the final configurations for those particular footprints will be evaluated through the use permit process. Moving on to a different exhibit. This exhibit shows the building elevations for the Arizona Tile. I'm going to zoom in. This information wasn't provided in your packet. I just want to zoom in so you can see the front elevation of Arizona Tile. In the submittal, there were building elevations for each of the different building types. This would be the mini majors that I referred to. This would be the pad buildings and the shops buildings. So these are conceptual building elevations so that when specific site plans for this center come in, they will be evaluated against what is shown here. And I do need to note that staff has worked with the applicant, and the applicant has provided a substantial level of either arcades or shade features, particularly on the front elevations, to ensure that to make for a shaded and an area that would be conducive to retail development. And all of the conceptual building elevations do show partially covered colonnades, arcades, and very large awnings which will cover the sidewalk areas throughout the center. The requested final PAD in the zoning for Pebble Creek Village Marketplace is consistent with the regional commercial and high-intensity mixed-use corridor overlay designations in the city's general plan, and also with the designations in the requirements in the City Center Gateway Overlay District. You'll note that the shops building adjacent to Pebble Creek Parkway is located 15 feet away from the setback line, and also the design for this footprint of the bank at the corner. The staff has had the building designed into the corner to be in compliance with the overlay district, so they have designed a component of the site that will include seating areas, trellis features, and kind of a corner monument feature that will tie into the bank so that they are at that building setback line required by the City Center Gateway Overlay District. Shifting gears, we're now looking at the sign location plan. You'll note that a freeway pylon sign is proposed in this area. The red dots show the locations of freestanding multi-tenant monument signs that are proposed. The applicant would like to have 2 on McDowell Road and 2 on Pebble Creek Parkway. There's also a corner monument signage. The applicant is proposing a few deviations to the sign provisions in the zoning ordinance, and with one exception, staff accepts the requests. the applicant is proposing a total of 4 freestanding monument signs. If you may remember the discussion regarding Goodyear Center Point, which is across the street to the east, staff is recommending that the sign package for Pebble Creek Village Marketplace be consistent with what was approved for Goodyear Center Point, and specifically in limiting the number of freestanding multi-tenant monument signs on Pebble Creek Parkway to 1. And that is outlined in stipulation number 11. In regards to the freeway pylon sign, the applicant is requesting one sign approximately 63 feet tall. 6 tenant panels are provided, and approximately 25 square feet would be, sorry, I showed you the wrong one. You can see here there's a City of Goodyear logo. 25 square feet of the freeway sign would contain the City of Goodyear logo. Staff finds that the proposed freeway pylon sign will not be material detrimental to persons residing or working within the vicinity, and it's consistent with the adjacent developments. Suncor has one approval of one freeway sign for the at-home district. Goodyear Center Point has approval of one sign, which is across the street to the east. This particular project contains 25 acres, has almost 2,000 feet of frontage along I-10, and in addition to this, the applicant owns 25 acres to the west of this project. And in the future, you'll see a future PAD for this subsequent phase of that development. The applicant has noted that 25 acres is tentatively planned for mixed-use commercial, hotel, office, and multifamily development. However, we have not received an application for that. It is not anticipated that those types of uses would need an additional freeway sign or even identification on the proposed sign that is before you this evening. In regards to the freeway sign, staff believes that the applicant has demonstrated an acceptable level of conformance with our stringent freeway pylon sign design guidelines. With that, we'll conclude the presentation by staff, and staff is available to answer any questions. The applicant is also available to answer any questions. We have Jesse Macias, the architect with RHL Design. We also have representatives from WM Grace.
Thank you, Brett. Any questions of staff? Yes, Mr. Bay.
Sure, Brett, could you...
Excuse me, what did you just say?
That's the Chairman Osborne?
I thought you said Chairman Horseman.
Did I say that? No, I don't think so.
Okay. Go on. Yes, sir.
Brett, I believe that there was some work done that was going to change the city logo, the city sign. Do we have some information on how that proceeded, and has that been approved?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bay, I don't know if you're referring to a monument sign for the City of Goodyear, a series of monument signs that would be placed in locations throughout the city. For an update on that, I would defer to Harvey.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bay, we've awarded the bid for the monument sign program. If you recall, we went through an elaborate process. We came up with a design. I know it's taken a little bit longer than we had we had several bids, and we had a protest on the bids. We had to work through those protests. So it took a while, and then once we finally got the low bid awarded, then they had problems coming up with a performance bond. So we've gotten past all that. So they're in the process of fabricating the signs. I expect them to apply for permits in the next 2 weeks, and it should be fabricated in at least 60 days, no later than 90 days. They'll be completed.
Did we change our logo? Or
No, we
put
did
the
not
sign that-
change our, excuse me, we did not change our logo. There are elements in the logo that are replicated in the monument sign. We did not use our logo because logos change. I've been in the city for the last 20 years. We're on our third logo. 23 years. So cities do change logos over time. So it happens if new councils and times change. So we're not planning on changing this logo.
Okay.
At least I'm not planning. Somebody else.
Not this
might.
week, huh?
No, not this week.
Okay.
So they've got that logo there. They'd have to change it, I guess, if we change our logo in the future.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Brett, STIP 8, should that not be the Luke Air Force Base stipulation and not the Phoenix Goodyear Airport stipulation?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gelzer, stipulation 8 will be revised to note Luke
That's
Air
fine.
Force Base.
Okay.
Yes.
Next question, on page 85, you showed the Arizona Tile conceptual elevation. Is Arizona Tile a two-story building, or is that a major false front?
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, I'll defer to the architects.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Jesse Macias, RHL Design, we're the architects for the project. Not a zoning attorney. You're going to be nice to me. To answer Commissioner Gelsler, it's actually part of it is second story with offices on the second story. And that's one of the reasons why you see the extensive window placement.
He likes that.
Stuff. Good stuff. Thank you. And it's really nice to see the name Goodyear in the sign. Somebody's finally getting it.
Any other questions of staff? I have one question, Brett. If you were continuing to go west on the 10, are there any other freeway pylon signs, either whether it be across the street or right next door, continuing down across the freeway, or right next door, continuing down? Have we heard of any or seen of any?
Madam Chair, members of the Commission,
Walmart?
Well, they haven't asked for one.
this area
They're not gonna-
is part of Palm Valley Phase 8. And also it comes into an area that Suncor is calling Palm Valley 303. And there are sites that Suncor is interested in having large signage. I want to say at least Saraval. We do have a conceptual exhibit at the office that I can show you tomorrow, but it would be Saraval is the approximate location. I don't know how far that is.
Okay, that's fine. That gives me an idea. Thank you. Any further questions of staff? All right, of the applicant? Questions, comments? Okay, my turn. Beautiful project. You guys presented a great package. Very informative.
Thank you.
Nicely put. Oh, I did forget one question. Brett, do we have appropriate parking? Is there enough here?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay. I am a retailer, and I'm all for business, but you're killing me with your signs. And I think it's overkill. So, I agree with staff with the one monument sign. I agree with staff with the two monument signs on McDowell. Of course, the signage on the front of the buildings. You do on page, let's see, I tabbed it. Within your sign package. It says S16 on the page. It's in the back. There's a section in here for, it says the owner occupant responsibilities. And you have a section in there regarding freestanding signs. All freestanding signs must meet applicable setbacks, and their installation must comply with all local building and electrical codes. Can you help me? What are you speaking of with freestanding sign there?
Again, this Madam Chair, this is specifically for the freestanding, the monument signs that are Pebble Creek and
So it is for the
Magdalene,
monument
yes.
signs. Okay, okay. Where my problem is you have many tenants on the back, facing the 10, or they're backing facing 10, and you have put signage for every one of those tenants. And then you have the monuments, the pylon sign. I think that's overkill. My first thought was, to me, you get one or the other. You can either have the signs at the back of the building, or you can have the pylon. You don't get both. Looking at the site, and the reason I asked the question of staff on where the next further west pylon would be, would you be willing to place that pylon further west, closer to the edge by your Arizona tile? Actually, you have within here as the retention basin.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But, because I just think it's overkill there, and I'm not happy with that. And I don't know how anybody else. See, I told you I like business.
I would have one question as it pertains to setting a sign in a retention basin. There are unique engineering things that are required because of that. More specifically, would be how you're measuring the height of the top of the sign. Is it measured from curb height, or would it be measured from the bottom of a retention basin? Because that could be 5 or 6 feet of an interpretation on where do we start counting from.
Right.
We're in retention.
Madam Chair, this is actually our proposed sign, which is actually a half a mile from the center point.
Yes, I understand that.
Now, again, this is all retention back here, with the exception of we're berming up to a portion of it to the monument sign. And I think one of the things that Charlie is indicating, moving it down here to the west could potentially create some problems with the retention, in the fact that we don't have such an expansive area on the behind the Arizona tile. But again, I think this is something that we can work with staff, and if that's something that you would like to see, I think we can.
That's the only way that you'll get me to agree to both of those, all of that signage. Now, everybody else could have another opinion. I'm just stating myself. That's the only way I will accept it, is that you either move it down there or you can't have both.
Right.
So.
And again, just to give you a brief history, I mean, it's over 16 months in the making, and we've diligently worked through all the challenges of this site. Obviously, this is something that we can work through, and we'll definitely work with staff and shift it west.
Okay. I appreciate that.
I would like to support the chairman's position. I would like to. I have no problem moving the pylon sign to the west retention basin of the property, and I would be, I think staff would be more than happy to work with you so that you get the height that you need, whether it's add 3 feet if it's sunk down 3 feet in the retention basin, I'm sure the staff would be happy to give you the extra 3 feet on the top so that the visibility is. I'm also going to support the chairperson in there's only one freestanding monument sign on Pebble Creek Parkway, just like the shopping center across the street. You get what they get.
Through the chair,
Commissioner. If you can
Gessler.
live with that, you're probably going to move right along.
And again, through the chair, Commissioner Gessler, this is something that, again, we've worked diligently with staff, and it's one of those things that we actually are emulating what was just approved on the center point. Our freestanding sign is significantly lower than what code allows, so I think that's one of the things that we're obviously going to work with staff to ensure that by shifting it to the retention area, we're not compromised with the height visibility. So again, that is something that, through all the challenges that we've had, it's probably not something that's going to.
Okay, thank you. I do not have any comment cards from the public. I apologize. Does anybody else have any questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone like to speak from the audience? No, then I shall close the public hearing and ask for commission action.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve case 06-300-00006 Pebble Creek Village Marketplace.
Oh, wait, that's the use permit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, let me rephrase. Case 05-200-001010, Pebble Creek Village Marketplace final planned area development, with the understanding that you're going to move the pylon sign to the west section of the retention basin, the west end of the project, and also that there will only be one freestanding monument sign on Pebble Creek Parkway.
And your stipulation needs to be fixed.
Oh yeah, the Luke. That's administrative.
Okay.
You get the Luke stipulation, not the Phoenix Airport stipulation.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Now, case 06-300-00006 Pebble Creek Village Marketplace use permit. Applicant RHL Design. Open the public hearing. Anything further from staff, or would you like to? No, sir?
Just, is it possible we could have staff provide us again the presentation for the location of pylons along Interstate 10? I do believe that since that time, we've seen some applications come in, and possibly those locations have changed, and I think it would help us in
So you'd like a
future
refresher?
cases. Yeah, if that's possible.
Can you do that, Mr. Birmingham?
We'll provide that information at the next meeting. Is that what we're looking for?
Yes.
An
Oh,
update,
is that what you wanted? I apologize. I thought you wanted me to do it right now.
as I understand it,
Right now.
Oh, okay.
an update of the
Where are
existing, potentially future locations for pylon signs along I-10.
Yes, thank you.
Bob, could we make it maybe a standard practice that whenever we have a pylon sign, that we bring in the map with everything that's been approved and everything that's potential? Because I think that'll make especially easier for City Council to grasp the...
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gelser, yes, excellent point.
Thank you.
And we will do that.
Okay. I'm sure the applicant doesn't have anything else to say. Anything, other questions? All right.
Ed.
Public? No? All right. Close the public hearing. Ask for commission action.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve case 06. Am I doing the right one?
Yes.
We got it.
Wait. Okay. Zero. Yeah, Bob, you do this one, okay? I got this one really messed up.
Madam Chairman, I move we approve case number 06-300-00006 for a freeway pylon sign within the Pebble Creek Village Marketplace final planned area development. And again, this assumes that the pylon will be moved to the more western retention area, as we discussed in the previous case.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
We have a nay.
I know. I'm continuing on my hatred of freeway pylons. I wish we didn't have to have them.
Thank you, sir. And we would like to take a 5-minute recess. Okay. You want to give me my phone? Since it's still harvest.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. You shall move right. You getting water? Okay. All righty. Letter F, case 07-500-00004, Goodyear Crossing Industrial Park, preliminary plats. The applicant is Duke Realty. We shall open the public hearing and ask for our staff report.
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Goodyear Crossing Industrial Park is located along the east side of Cotton Lane, west side of Searle Avenue, and south of Dunlap Road, which is also called Elwood Street in some locations, and the city hopes to make that one or the other. Currently, this is Dunlap Road and MC 85 and the railroad on the south side. The subdivision is 293 acres. It's planned to be subdivided into 6 lots, as I'll show you in a minute, ranging in size from 14 acres to 95 acres. The general plan designates the entire property as being general industrial GI. You can see on the graphic, property to the north is a county area with large lot residential subdivisions to the north. The Rubbermaid facility is to the west, and the subject property today is currently vacant. The property is currently has I-2 industrial zoning on the majority of it. A piece in the northeast corner is still currently zoned agriculture, which I'll get to in a second. Again, of the 269 acres, 269 acres of the 293 acre site is currently zoned I-2, and 24 acres is currently zoned AG. This subdivision proposes on the entire site. Even though it's an industrial subdivision, this can be permitted as provided there's not industrial uses developed on that portion that's currently AG. The applicant has indicated an intention to come before the Commission, submit an application for PAD zoning on the entire site in the near future as part of the overall industrial development. But today that has not occurred, but that's going to be forthcoming. And that leads to why we've included a stipulation, really, that the rezoning of property to PAD must occur prior to actual platting of any portion of that AG zone property, because it's currently just agriculture, not zoned industrial. The proposed preliminary plat is one further item. Zoom in a little bit. Again, there's 6 lots, large lots within the industrial subdivision. A little bit hard to see, but lot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a retention basin down here is lot 6. This proposed industrial subdivision is going to be buffered from the adjacent large lots to the north. As you can see, Dunlap Road is proposed to be meandered slightly to the south to provide a landscape track along the north side of Dunlap, which provides a buffer to the residential areas. And then one further note, this lot at this location is the location, as you may have heard in the last few days and weeks, of the Federated Warehouse Distribution Facility. The proposed preliminary plat is consistent with the development permitted on the property by the Goodyear General Plan. Lot sizes and configurations are consistent with the requirements of the zoning ordinance. Staff recommends approval subject to the stipulations. And Madam Chair, Commissioner, I apologize, but I do have some modifications to some stipulations. The city and the applicant are working through a process of a development agreement on a number of different issues, and to be sure that the stipulations do not conflict with that final development agreement that's still in the works, staff are recommending some modifications to the stipulations we forwarded to you, and specifically in stipulation number 9, after the first sentence, which ends in the words engineering design standards, at the end of that sentence, we would want to insert the language, or as otherwise approved by the city in a development agreement, or PAD zoning. Similarly, in stipulations 16, 17, and 18, for the same reasons of a development agreement that's now being worked with the applicant, we would ask that the language that be included at the end of each of those stipulations, 16, 17, and 18, that would read, or as otherwise approved by the city in a development agreement. Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation. I'll be answering any questions, and the applicant and their representatives are here to also.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Yes, Mr. Bill.
Bob, at our last meeting, we saw the El Cedro project, which basically has the 303, otherwise known as Cotton Lane, diverging off north of the rubber bank facility and heading in a basically a southwesterly direction. How will Cotton Lane continue to MC85, and what are the responsibilities of this development site for their half-side street improvements, and then refresh my memory on what the El Cedro half-site street improvements would be on the other side of the street?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gelter, El Cedro is located, a portion of El Cedro, through here, and then through this general area to the northwest. The 303, the alignment that the Planning Commission recommended approval of the realignment of the 303, is approximately coming in this alignment through here, going southwest past Rubbermaid. That would be the new alignment of the 303. Cotton Lane, in conjunction with that, as an interim, it would be built in El Cedro as a normal arterial street. As it approaches where the 303 begins to curve, it would then turn into ultimately a frontage road for the 303 at that location. South of here, I would believe it anticipated it'll still function as an arterial street to MC85.
So an arterial would have 4 lanes?
An arterial street would be 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction with the center.
Okay. So this developer would be responsible for 2 lanes and curbs and gutters on his side, and El Cedro would be responsible for 2 lanes, curbs and gutters on their side. So eventually, so that when heavy truck traffic shows up, we're going to have a 4-lane street here.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gelcher, yes, I believe that would be the normal case. Some of the actual responsibility for improvements along Cotton may be a part of the development agreement, but I believe the basic requirement, improvement of the Cotton Lane would be the 4-lane arterial, 2 in each direction.
Got it.
Okay. Just one correction. It's a 6-lane.
Is it a major arterial?
Yeah, it's a scenic arterial cross-section. Will have 3 lanes in each direction with a median. So the developer will be responsible, technically will be responsible for his 1/2 of the right-of-way improvement.
That's from MC85 all through Cotton Lane?
Along his frontage, which is, roughly, well, it wouldn't be all the way to MC85. I don't think it goes all the way.
Well, okay, to the railroad tracks, so the railroad crossing.
Wherever his frontage is.
Oh.
Right, that's correct.
Any
He
other-
wouldn't be responsible for the full half. There is something in the development. I mean, there's 2 lanes. There's another lane there that we will be.
Okay, I mean, we're not going to build a senior arterial in this industrial gateway to our city, right? I mean, we're going to build a truck route.
No, within the development, the standards will be different.
Okay,
We're talking about just along Cotton Lane right now.
thank you. I'll leave it in your expert hands.
Any other questions of staff? I apologize, Walt, leave that up there. When you were just stating where El Cedro was and kind of where it started, did El Cedro not go all the way up to Dunlap Road? In that darkened area?
The El Cedro residential portion of this El Cedro was to this area. This is townhouses, as I recall.
Okay, that's
with townhouses or patio homes at this location. The other residential portion of El Cedro was northwest of the Loop 303, and then this portion of El Cedro was for industrial.
okay.
And commercial.
I stand corrected. You're correct. This portion of El Cedro immediately here in the area of Dunlap and Cotton was commercial. In the area of Rubbermaid facility, and that was industrial.
Okay, has there been that middle road that they labeled middle road on the site plan? Will that be used more for in and out truck traffic, or are we going to see a major amount of truck traffic on Dunlap between this site and the residential areas? Do I need to ask the applicant of that?
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Dunlap from Saraville to Cotton within this development will have industrial traffic. Adjacent to the east is Elwood, and the south side of Elwood through this location also is within a planned industrial area. And then Elwood connects to the east to Estrella. Elwood has always been planned as a truck route within the general plan.
Right.
It eventually connects with Bullard and then up through, but basically this has always been planned as a truck route to feed that industrial traffic over to the 303 MC85 area.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we are working on standardizing the Elwood Dunlap name. Conundrum, right?
Madam Chair, we are certainly trying to do that.
Post office.
As I understand it, the issue is that Dunlap in this location has some existing residential lots off of it on the north side. And it's difficult to change addresses, street names which change addresses for existing residential properties. But otherwise through this area, it is Elwood. Dunlap also creates a problem because there is a Dunlap Avenue in Phoenix that most people associate to, so from emergency response and others, it can create a problem. So it's being looked into.
Thank you. The applicant to speak to this? Any questions of the applicant? No? Okay, I don't have any cards. Would anyone from the public like to speak to this case? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing, ask for commission action or discussion.
Madam Chair, I would move that we approve 07500-0004 as written with the stipulations discussed.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Our last case for the evening, case 0695000002, City Center Air Park Design Guidelines. The applicant is Duke Realty.
Madam Chair, that's
I was just going to say, that doesn't sound right.
a typographic error. That's my error
Okay,
in
thank
preparing
you.
the agenda.
Well, regardless, let's open the public hearing.
The applicant is Sun MP.
Yes, thank you.
They all look the same after a while.
Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, the City Center Air Park is planned to be a major employment center for the city. That includes opportunities for both commercial, industrial, and business uses. The approved PAD zoning for this property combines C2, I1, and I2 zone parcels. The PAD includes approximately 34 acres of C2 zoning, 110 acres of I1, and 190 acres of I2. At the time the city, At the time the City Center Air Park PAD was approved by the Planning Commission, recommended for approval in October of 2006, and then approved by the City Council in December of 2006. Design guidelines for the City Center Air Park were still being refined by the applicant. Accordingly, as a result, the PAD zoning was approved with a stipulation that stated that the previously submitted design guidelines, streetscape plan, etc., shall be revised to reflect the final land use plan and shall be submitted for review and recommendation by the Planning Commission and approval by the Council prior to the individual development of site plans on the property. And that's why we're here tonight, is to see the Commission's review and recommendation on the approval of design guidelines for City Center Air Park. The design guidelines reflect the proposed PAD land use plan and complement the City Center Pacific Area Plan. The design guidelines have been established within the materials, and that was the book that you received. For streetscapes and open space, building and landscape architecture, and signage. They also contain design standards and guidelines for site planning of each land use, basically to ensure that the industrial and commercial development have high-quality mixed use throughout. The City Center Design Guidelines establish a mechanism to ensure a consistent design theme quality, visual continuity, and a sense of order throughout the City Center Air Park, while allowing individuality in building architectural design, all taken within the concept of the overall theme established and the quality level established by design guidelines. Staff recommends approval of design guidelines subject to the one stipulation included in your staff report. And that concludes my presentation, and I'll be answering any question, and the applicant and his representative are also here to answer any questions that the Commission may have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? Yes, Mr. Williams.
Is there access to the airport from here, or does airport security require a barrier between this land so that cargo has to go, roundabout way to get here?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Williams, the applicant can maybe respond further, as can Mr. Kraus, but it's my understanding currently there is not access from the airport into this property. There are study underway relative to the Phoenix Goodyear Airport for the addition of a runway, as well as looking at different concepts for orientation of major entry for the airport. So today the property does not have direct access to the airport. Within the PAD plan, you'll notice that there is a street showing come down in here to the airport. That's on the assumption that future plans for the airport and the master plan studies that are underway, may yield that as an entrance into the airport properties for cargo and for other uses.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Okay. Mr. Bull?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commission, Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne. As you know, and as Bob mentioned, these design guidelines are a follow-up to the prior PAD approval. I want to emphasize, as I think is reconfirmed or confirmed in the preface of the book and is really reconfirmed by the one stipulation, that these design guidelines are something that the Design Review Committee privately reviews and goes through with a proposed developer, but it by no stretch immunes anyone from the city processes or the city code or anything like that. The preface and other places in the design guideline notebook make it clear that you still have to go through all the city processes, and that when in doubt, the more strict of the two controls. If the private guideline is more strict, it controls. If the city guideline is more strict, it controls. So this is a mechanism whereby SunMP, similar to in, say, a residential subdivision, can deal with house product and subdivision design and streetscape and so on, but then nonetheless you still need to come through the city processes. As a staff report summarizes, and as Bob summarized, there's a whole host of items in this notebook which are covered from streetscapes and landscaping to architecture, materials and colors and so on and so forth. It's a set of design guidelines that was started a long, long time ago. The world kind of went on hold for a while. Then we were asked to dust them off and update them in accordance with your council's recent PAD approval, which Todd and his consultants have done. Staff has worked with Todd and his consultants along the way. Staff's fingerprints are on these design guidelines. Obviously, staff is recommending approval, and we appreciate that. We accept the stipulation that's in staff's report, and we request your approval in accordance with staff's recommendation.
Okay. Questions of the applicant?
Just one question. The last time we had the City Air Park Center before us, Commissioner Gelser gave us a presentation from the Phoenix Goodyear Airport. And I guess I'm curious whether or not SunMP or a representative has had an opportunity to get on that commission, or have they been contacted so that the future development of this is in alignment with their plan.
Well, I know that Todd has sought information from time to time. I don't believe he sits on a committee where we know that there's different alternatives.
Uninvited, huh?
And as Bob indicated and as shown on this plan, one of the things that we were asked to provide the opportunity for is the possibility of a future street connection if, through the airport master planning processes, it's decided that there would be an entryway to the airport in this location. If there is, this accommodates it. If there isn't, then this street would stop short of the airport. Other than that, I think that we're a neighboring landowner who's trying to keep an eye on what's going on, but we are not involved by having a seat on any committee.
Unfortunate. Okay.
Anyone else?
I have a question of staff. Bob, we talked earlier today about the Wood corporate campus coming back, which surrounds this, and they're going to have a revised PAD. And I guess what I want to ask, so that I know it's on the record, what would trigger, if the Wood campus comes back and does a revised PAD because of the baseball stadium and the practice fields, will that trigger a revision in this PAD and the design guidelines?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gelser, yes, in part, and I'll clarify.
Okay.
As shown in here, the exception area through here is that portion of the Wood corporate campus, and more specifically where the spring training baseball stadium would be located. And as you'll see in a couple of weeks, with the Wood corporate campus revised PAD that we brought forth, the stadium is generally in this location, and the practice fields are on that portion of Wood campus to the south. The rezoning, at the time of the rezoning of the City Center Air Park and the approval of development agreement between the city and SunMP for City Air Park, there was a provision added to the development agreement by the applicant and the city. that basically says, and if we need be, we can pull out the specific language. It says that at the time that, and I'll paraphrase, that the design of the stadium, specific location of the stadium, design of the stadium is known relative to this area of adjacency between the two property owners. That if the city manager determines that the proposed land uses in City's Air Park here would be incompatible with the stadium land use and design, that the city manager would send a letter to the applicant requesting them to revise their PAD to reflect more commercial uses or more compatible uses in that area. That still stands today. We're not at a point now that the Wood Corporate Campus and Ballpark Village, as it's called, is coming forward and is getting further defined and refined. Once that gets to that point, then that would be the trigger when it is approved and we know the stadium design and the Ballpark Village design of Wood Corporate Campus adjacent to this property is approved, then that would be the determination that the city manager will make at a time. Is it compatible? And that would trigger that action within the development agreement. But at this time, it's premature.
Okay. Could I ask the applicant to respond? I mean, where do you know this is coming? Where are you standing on this?
The language that Bob's referring to is
There you go.
is this paragraph 1.5 that's in the development agreement. And without repeating Bob's paraphrasing of it, we agree with his summary of what this says. Okay. And when you get clear down to the bottom of it is, after the baseball facility's designed and it's reviewed by the city manager and this and that and the other thing has happened, if the city manager determines that I-1 on those two lots that Bob was referring to is incompatible with the baseball facility, then the city manager would ask Sun MP to file an application to amend those two lots to C2, and Sun MP had agreed that we would do that, and it's expected by both the city and Sun MP that likely would be given favorable consideration. That's really what's going on here in the very last, say, 3 lines of this language. But as Bob indicated,
this is on that minor. It's not just the 2 lots. It's the minor collector that's going on the. Yeah, I mean, we're looking at the lots, below the C2 line. There's 2 lots there, and then the lots along Lower Buckeye Road, right, Ed? Or are we just looking at the 2 lots?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gelsner, it's really, our understanding has always been, it's this whole thing is dependent upon baseball design, where it is, what's adjacent to us, and so on and so forth. These 2 lots are ones that are closest proximity to the baseball stadium, but the baseball stadium is over in here somewhere.
Right.
The practice fields, we understand, are down in here somewhere. And I think, again, it's going to be as the city manager looks at that baseball-related design and tracks through this language that we were talking about and how we get into screening and other placement of baseball facilities and what's there and what's not there and so on and so forth, screening kinds of issues, those types of things. He will have to make a determination as to compatibility and if C2 uses would be more compatible than I-1, recognizing I-1 can be properly screened and so on and so forth. So I think it's going to be a very factual driven, what is it, what's compatible. If A isn't compatible, would B be more compatible than A, that type of thing.
I guess, I can't speak for the commission, but I can speak for this commissioner.
Right.
That I think you can develop those, once the stadium and the baseball village have been laid out, and along with the practice fields, I think some of your I-1 land can be developed at a much higher use and a better use. And whether it's PAD or commercial or whatever, I'm encouraging you to seek the higher end that you can come up with. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay, I have a couple. Regardless of that area of that little minor collector, the kind of connector road between the two ball fields.
This road you're talking about?
Yes, sir. I'm going to use a famous Chairman Horstman word. It would behoove you to have a little better landscaping plat or design through that roadway. The other issue that I have, and it's something that is good for the city that I see, and that's the fact that I've been traveling the nation. And as I travel the nation, that's terrible for developers, is I get to see everybody else's designs and colors and styles and architecture out there. And just the past 5 days, I was driving from here to San Antonio. And going through El Paso, I was studying your little booklet here. And I came across your color palette. And I went, oh, all those pretty colors of sand. As I was passing these majorly, terrible word, these beautiful industrial sites that's very contemporary, with deeper shades of brown, with deep shades of a turquoise blue, with many other greens. You know, I hate to tell you, but your color palette cannot stay that way. You've got to have a little more color to it.
This palette
Yes,
that
sir.
you're talking about?
Yes. You're getting some roses in there, but that can't be enough. Let these industrial people come up with something pretty cool, and that palette won't give it to them. Also, and this is truly, and I wish I had, I'm not just trying to pick on you, but when you come to the trees, there's one beautiful tree that I never see on the list, and maybe you will know because I don't, but it's used so many places in this valley, and that's a beautiful green tree that has these purple flowers, smells like lilac, and it's called a jacaranda. Yes. Is that not a good tree? Really?
That's susceptible to frost, and they're, I mean, quite honestly, they're really more suited for residential neighborhoods, along those kinds of things. They're very expensive trees.
They're messy.
Well, but there's a lot of things that, there's like,
from the February frost.
oh, I know. I've had them I've had them myself, and I know that Safeway has them, and I know that, like you say, residential areas, they're just beautiful trees, and so I truly wondered why it was never on the lists that I see.
It's a little bit more pampering than what you would probably see in more of a...
Also high water consumption.
Yeah, right.
I didn't think they were that water consumption, that high, but, okay.
I guess we would recommend if a better and higher use of certain areas comes up, I would think you might want to consider some.
Well, they're very pretty.
On the way to the ballpark or the practice.
It doesn't have to necessarily be in an industrial site. I understand. Right. Okay, that was for curiosity's sake. But truly, please expand your color palette. You don't go into a huge amount of detail of what you would prefer to see. You're going to have one city councilman that likes the use of rock, and you don't go into a whole lot about that, and I don't want to stipulate, or I don't want to say that every building has to have some form of rock, because I don't believe in that. But just be prepared for those kind of questions.
You mean stone accents?
Stone accents, yes. Not that they need to be on every single one, but maybe going into a little more detail as to helping out a builder. And that was my only comment. Anybody else? Can we expand that color palette?
I would think so.
I think part of the problem you're having with the color palette is that
could you come to the
yes.
Get it on record. We need to have all speakers.
Madam Chairman, Todd Tupper with Sun MP, 8601 North Scottsdale Road. The problem that you have with the color palette is you're not really seeing a true color palette. What happens is as you reproduce the colors, I mean, we've had to produce 24 books of this thing, so you're not seeing a true sort of representation of what these colors are. They get faded out a little bit. And this color palette is a fairly wide-ranging color palette.
But there's not anything that's very dark.
Well,
there certainly aren't any greens.
Yeah,
So,
if I can show you, this is, as an example, if we can get this up. Well, see, it doesn't even read there, but let me show you. This is what a true, if you actually take that, those are the colors you start to see. And I guess, Madam Chairman, I guess the beauty of the design guidelines are it does allow for that flexibility, and it does allow for us as the Architectural Review Committee to simply go outside of these things if someone else presents a different color palette.
but if they don't see this to begin with, if they don't see other colors to begin with, they won't think about them. They'll think this is what you want to stick with, and that's what they'll present to you.
We can certainly take a look at it, but I
Okay,
think
I
that
would
the color
appreciate
palette we have in there is a fairly wide-ranging color palette. So.
I'm going to support the chairperson because I just came off an architectural review committee where they had about 18 colors and they expanded the accents and the trims to about 27 colors, and I just think you need to give the builder, because you're not going to build all these buildings, you're just going to be the master developer, and you need to be able to allow the builders who come in and build a building to say, I want to put some green trim on, or I want to do this, and if it's there, they'll pick up on it. If it isn't there, they're not going to expand their ideas.
We will work on the color palette for not only base colors, but some contrasting possibilities as well between now and the council.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions, comments? That's it.
The last comment, the only thing I can do is, I sit on this Phoenix Goodyear Airport Commission, and it is one of the most frustrating committees that I've been on, because it doesn't seem to be moving along, because the city of Phoenix has bigger things to to put on their plate right now, like $3 billion worth of expansion of Sky Harbor. And the only thing I can do is say, please stay in close contact with staff. There is going to be a meeting sometime before July, maybe, if we're lucky. What?
It's March 12th.
Oh.
There's that thing in Hampton Inn where they're unveiling their preferred alternative.
They haven't told this commission yet.
He's on the committee.
Well, I'm glad I'll put March 12th on my calendar.
March 12th.
Well, fine. Like I said, that's good. You have more information than I do.
So they're including you. You get to hear that information.
We just pick up things.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
It's been a challenge that Todd's been dealing with for 13 years.
Yeah.
In that back when they were doing due diligence prior to purchasing property, there was attempts to try to figure out what's there and what lies in the
We're trying to make your property more valuable as they come ahead with their plan, and please be there as an interested party to talk about what's going to happen.
Okay, I shall anyone from the audience like to speak? No. Close the public hearing, ask for commission action.
Madam
Chair, I'd like to move that we recommend approval of case 06-950-00002 City Center Air Park Design Guideline.
With
An expanded color palette. I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, staff communication.
Commission, a reminder that our next meeting is a special meeting, March 7th. I believe the one item we have on the agenda is the Wood Corporate Campus PAD, the revised one. You saw it several weeks ago, and was with baseball was unknown at the time. Now baseball is a known quantity, so you will see the ballpark village.
Say, Harvey, I will be in San Antonio then. Have we, sorry.
We passed each other.
I'm going to look at some of the palettes that Joanne's and hang out at Marriott. But
drink a lot of wine.
Yeah. But I guess I wanted to find out what the procedure was going to be to call in for the meeting.
Do you have a number that you're going to be at? We call you.
You'd call me?
If you have a number, we can call you.
I can
Get Joe the number that we're supposed to call you.
Okay.
We'll call you.
I'll email you that once I know, but I won't know until I'm there.
I hope she remembers there's an hour difference in time. No, just kidding. I'm only partly playing. Yeah, there's some hour difference. I think we also have the Goodyear, the storage, Sadea Water Campus on for the 7th too.
Okay.
And they are making some changes to their design. I believe that's it, isn't it? Or is there another? Those are the only two items. We were going to have the state land office, but we're moving that to the 21st also, rezoning. And then we have our regular meeting on the 21st. So
I too will be absent. I'll be in San Jose that night. I will try to figure out a way if I can call in or get on the internet and see what's going on, and then maybe call here so that I can give comments if I can see it.
Okay, it's 2 down. Are we everybody? You'll be here, Carol?
I'll be here.
Good Lord willing.
Okay, Sean?
Legislature willing.
But they count as quorum, though, if they're on the phone, right?
You're right. So that would be 3, 4. Okay, 5.
Yeah.
This will be okay.
Sure, 5.
If you don't make it to one. Okay.
Harvey, on staff communications, can you find out what's going on with the Phoenix Goodyear Airport Commission? Because if the applicant knows that there's a meeting coming up and the people who are on the commission don't, it's not real good.
Not kosher.
Yes.
And I want to go to that meeting because I need to make sure that Goodyear's well
we got sent a
represented.
flyer for that from the airport because we had to space there, so they sent us a flyer for the 12th. So I guess they didn't let me tell you.
I'll put it in our. I'll put it in that cover memo that I do.
But
so for the 7th.
they don't want me to come. That's why.
Everybody else
knows
knows.
because they know I'm going to, kind of get pissed.
Tell them the wrong
Are you
place.
going to just?
That's all I have.
Okay.